Hello, my name is Patrick, and I'm a sculptor. When I started sculpting, I struggled with the painting process. It can be a lot to learn. Let me show you how I took my owlbear sculpture from this to this. Here's my step-by-step guide on how to paint your sculpture. So, you've just finished your sculpture, it's cooled down, it's come out of the oven, it's ready to go. Take a moment to look around it, see if there are any flaws. You can often use a craft knife to deal with any potential flaws in it, just by cutting off little bits and pieces and just sort of cleaning up the work. This goes a long way to making the final piece look well and complete, because little tiny errors will get picked up more and more as you paint. If there are any errors that can't be resolved with a knife, you may need to get out some clay, some liquid clay adhesive, and fill in those gaps and put it through the oven one last time. Once you are happy with the sculpture and you're ready to paint, it's important to think about whether you should prime or not. Will you be handling it a lot in the painting process? Will you be finishing it with a glaze? If you're going to handle it a lot, odds are you're going to accidentally work out some of that plastic on plastic and you're going to have pieces flaking off. If you think you're going to glaze it right away, soon after the painting is done, you might be able to get away without priming it. It's really up to you. The other thing to think about with primer is the color result. So basically, if you have primer on it, you're going to get a wider range of colors as a result. So if you have a white primer, you're going to get bright, vibrant colors out of it. And if you have a darker black primer, you're going to get darker and more richer tones out of it. In terms of actually priming, I use a gesso. I don't know how to say that word. Gesso. I keep a white and a black gesso and mix the two depending on where I want the primer to land. So again, if I have a darker tone that I want, I'm going to use more black. If I have a lighter tone, I'm going to use more white. I can use full black and full white as well. And it really comes down, do I want richer, darker tones or vibrant, lighter tones? And really it's up to you. The other thing to think about with using gesso is that it can sometimes be very streaky. So you might have to do more than one layer of the gesso in order to get a nice smooth finish. In the case of the owlbear, I chose a darker gray tone for the primer because I wanted a darker tone that would lead to a more monstrous feeling and bring it towards realism opposed to, say, vibrant cartoony colors. And so I went with a dark gray for my primer. With the prime done, it was time for the base tones. At this stage, it's all about getting paint on the model. I used a burnt umber mixed with a bit of black for the majority of the body, aiming slightly darker than the end result I intended. A gray was applied to the rock, and I mixed a lighter shade of brown on the way to white to begin filling out the face. As the brush runs out of paint, I work down the neck on the underside to begin the process of blending tones. Once these larger base tones are down, I begin working in light shades to help bring out the colors. So I take a lighter brown and using a light touch, I apply it to the body. At this stage, it's important to start thinking about shadow and light. As I apply the increasingly lighter tones, a lighter touch means that the darker tones are left in the crevices. And I'm strategic about where I apply the lighter tones, leaving the shadows darker. I apply a lighter shade of light brown to the face as well. And this process continues as long as you like, applying lighter and lighter tones with a lighter and lighter touch, with less and less saturation of paint on your brush. For the feathers, I begin adding some yellow to the brown to help lighten up the surface. I go extra light on the hands and arms to reflect some of the changing in feathers. And I begin to detail in the facial details. I apply black to the eyebrow feathers and add a black base to the eye color of the eyes. Add yellow to the center of the eye for the eye color, and apply black to the beak. I continue lightening the fur around the hands and the arms, and with that I add some darker shading around the claws as well. Don't forget to paint the claws black. I work on the blending of the feathers by applying a small amount of light brown to the neck. Now that the eyes are dry, I apply a dark circle of black for the pupil and add matching white dots in both of the eyes for the reflection of light. And with that, the basic painting job is finished. Now it's time to work on the finer details. And for this one, I really wanted to go for the details. I wanted the feathering to be more broken up so you could see the individual feathers. This meant applying a thin layer of white to the tips of each feather. So slowly and painstakingly, I applied this line to every feather. Now with the white line applied, it looked good, but I wanted it to seem a little sharper, so above each of the white lines I applied a thinner black line. This meant that the white really popped, but it also gave some texture to the whole thing. And with that, the core paint job was finished, but I wanted to really bring a stark contrast to the piece, so I used a black oil-based wash. I applied the wash to the project and used a paper towel to remove it from the highest points. Here again, you want to think about the shadows and where the darkness would be most prevalent. Once applied and dried, I went back over the piece, reapplying the lightest surface of the projects. And with that, let's check out the final reveal. And that's my guide on how I painted this owlbear sculpture. I hope you're able to learn from the process. As I said earlier, when I started learning, it was a journey, and let me encourage you on your journey. If you're just starting out or if you feel frustrated around painting, find a way to make it fun. Experiment, do weird things, just do whatever. It doesn't have to be perfect every single time. You can just have a lot of fun. And as you practice, as you experiment, you will learn every single time and get better and better and better, I assure you. So focus in on that fun and have a good time. Let me know if you have any tips for how to paint sculptures. I'm still growing, I'm still learning, so I'd love to hear from you. If you did enjoy this video, you might actually enjoy my live streams, twitch.tv/southernhandmade. It's a growing group of artists, sculptors, and people who just like watching art being made. It's a pretty chill place, really great people. Come hang out, we'll have a great time. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe. And of course, till next time, keep being awesome.